Hello and welcome to this second lecture in my family law series, where today we're going to be defining family law, or at least attempting to define family law. And this is part of the section of these videos which is looking at how family law has changed over time. So just as by way of introduction, I am Charlie Medcalf and I am a law student, and you are seeing this on my Law with Charlie YouTube channel. And so I hope this will help you with either revision or learning as a starting point in your family law education. And shall we get straight into seeing what actually family law is? How do we define family law? So firstly, let's go through the learning objectives. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to describe the different descriptions of family. You should be able to explain the development of the family. And then finally, you should also be able to evaluate whether the law has done enough. And so I won't waste any more time on this slide. Let's get straight into it. What is a family? And essentially, I want you to tell me, what do you think family is? How would you define family? So please do write in the comments section below. I'll give you a few moments to just write in the comments. And you might want to pause this video at this point and just let me know what you think a family is, because I'm sure no one comment will be the same, and that's essentially one of the reasons why I ask this question. So I'll just be quiet for a moment whilst I let you think about what is a family and write in the comments below what you think a family is, and then pause the video if you need a bit more time. So I'm hoping that's been enough time for you to write in the comments section below what you think a family is. I will have a look at the comments as well when this video is published, and I will try and respond. But as I said a few moments ago, it's likely that no comment, no definition is the same, and that's because of how family means something different to everyone. I might define family as the individual, the close individuals, or individuals who have a close relationship with each other, but then that could also be disputed, and so that makes it very difficult to say exactly what a family actually is. And so that's why we must look at the law, and in particular the case law, to try and determine what actually is a family. And because of that, we turn to our first case, which is by the amazing Lady Hale. And this is the case of Whittington Hospital, NHS Trust and XX. This is a 2020 case from the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. And here Lady Hale says, more dramatic still have been the developments in the law's ideas of what constitutes a family. Traditionally, families were limited to those related by consanguinity, blood, or affinity, marriage. Hence, at first, only opposite-sex married couples could apply for parental orders. Now they have been joined by same-sex married couples, by same-sex and opposite-sex civil partners, and by couples whether of the same or opposite sexes who are neither married nor civil partners, but are living together in an enduring family relationship. They have also been joined by single applicants. All of these would be regarded as family relationships within the meaning of Article 8 of the ECHR. So we can see from Lady Hale's comment here that she's really described how the idea of the family has developed over time, and she gives us a bit more of an idea of what a family actually is. And you can see from this highlighting that the yellow is what it used to be, i.e. the nuclear family. The green is the more modern family, and then the blue below the green is essentially the key point of this statement, I would say, and that is that these would all be regarded as family relationships, and so we need to take a broad view of what a family is. But I won't go into any more detail in this video, but if you are wanting more detail around these areas, then please do take a look at my premium content, and I will talk about my premium content a bit more at the end. So let's move on. The traditional definition. And the traditional definition was very much a nuclear family. And the nuclear family essentially involved two people, a man and a woman, who were married and they had children. So usually it would be husband and wife married and two children or thereabouts. And it's also been defined by the Cambridge Online Dictionary as a family consisting of two parents and their children, but not including aunts, uncles, grandparents, etc. And that is a very key distinction between what a nuclear family is and what alternative family types are. So for example, if the family did include aunts, uncles or grandparents, then it's likely that would be an extended family. But I won't go into too much detail in this lecture on that, but essentially it's just the idea that the traditional definition was husband and wife, male and female, with children. And that was the family. That was the traditional definition of a nuclear family. So that's the traditional definition. What about a modern definition? So some more questions for you. So what might a modern definition look like? We've already seen various suggestions. For instance, what if there were grandparents, aunts or uncles involved? Lady Hale in her Whittington speech also spoke a bit about what a modern definition might look like. But also how do we take account of the constantly evolving shape of the family, especially in the 21st century? So previously we were able to have just one definition, or well, one main definition, the nuclear family, which we've just seen. But what about in the modern age? Are we able to have just one definition of family? Is a definition even the right thing? Can we actually define family, or is there another way of talking about it? And this is something I'll discuss in much more detail in my premium content. And because of the way society is constantly evolving, if we do come up with a modern definition, how will that take into account the idea that what a family looks like can be constantly evolving, especially when we think about how what we might think are families today may be completely different in the future. And the future idea of family we may have never even thought about. We may have never thought they would be families. So do let me know what you think in the comments, but there is really a tension in trying to find a definition of what a family is, what we mean by family in the law, which keeps up with the constantly evolving times. But again, the case law has been of some assistance in trying to define what the family is. And there's two cases in particular. So in the case of Singh, an entry clearance officer, New Delhi, in 2004, the Court of Appeal mentioned how that in our multicultural and pluralistic society, the family takes many forms. And so this has really shown how Britain has become a multicultural country, and what a family is very much depends on cultural backgrounds. So In some cultures, for instance, the extended family is or has been the norm, whereas in Britain, traditionally, it's been the nuclear family, and so you need to take into account how this all, whether one definition of family is sufficient, especially considering these multi-cultures. But also in Fitzpatrick and Sterling Housing Association Limited in 2001, the House of Lords said how family is not a term of art, and the meaning of family depends on the context. And so maybe it's, if there is a definition of family, it varies. Maybe there is no set definition, and it's instead how you define it. How do you define your family? Or it could be that there's no definition at all, and you just need to look at the facts of each of the case. But let's have a look. Is there a legal definition? And essentially, no. The law has not defined what a family is. There's nowhere in any of the statutes or legislation for family law where it defines what a family is. Yes, they define what marriages are, civil partnerships, adoption, and all of that. But family is very much left undefined. And so that's really shown us how the legislature have built definitions and legislation which impact families and are part of families and family law, but have done that as more of a way to develop family law rather than trying to define what a family is. And so it might be worth asking yourself, why has the legislature and even the courts not given us a legal definition of what a family is? Also, should the law actually define what a family is? Should a statute tell us that a family is X, Y, and Z, or should it be left as it is? On the one hand, if the law did define what a family was, there would be legal certainty, as that might make it easier to apply the law. However, on the other hand, if there is a legal definition, it might be that it's too rigid and too strict. And does family law work at the moment? Even without a legal definition of what family is, are there any problems with not having a family definition, a legal definition? Would it impact the system in any material way? I would say the biggest problem in family law is not actually whether there's a definition of family, but more the legal aid cuts, which has led to an increase of litigants in person. But that's a topic for another day entirely. And so let's go on now to change of focus, and again we are building on our knowledge of what a family is and defining the idea of a family, but from a human rights perspective, particularly for children. So here we can see the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, and this is the preamble, and in the preamble it very much mentions how the family as the fundamental group of society and the national environment for the growth and well-being of all its members, and particularly children, should be afforded the necessary protection and assistance so that it can fully assume its responsibilities within the community, and the child, for the full and harmonious development of his or her personality, should grow up in a family environment in an atmosphere of happiness, love, and understanding. And so there is a bit of an attempt here to define what a family is. It's a fundamental group of society, but it's also a natural environment where children grow and where their well-being is maintained. And so there's many different angles you can take for this. A fundamental group of society, maybe because it's like an internal welfare system. If you're in a family, there's less need to go to the state for benefits, and instead you can resort to the family first. But also, psychological research has shown that it's really, really important that a child has both the mother and the father in their lives in order to grow up and reach their potential, because not having a mother or a father, or not having a good relationship with either, will lead to attachment issues, which can have various influences on later adult life. If you're interested in this area of psychology and the role of the mother and the father, one of my videos on employment law and the reconciliation of work and family life talks a bit about this area, but also there's more content and more premium content as well, where you can find out about the psychological reasons why we might want both mothers and fathers involved, and the value for children as premium content as well. But yeah, this is really one of the key things which gives us an idea of what a family is. However, although the UK have signed up, the England and Wales have signed up to this agreement, it is not enforceable. So essentially, this Convention on Rights of the Child is of little value, because children or parents nor anyone else can actually enforce any of the rights within it. And so this is just really guidance and advisory, essentially. So now let's take a look at this lecture, this discussion on defining family from a slightly different angle, because so far we've been trying to actually define family as we would define any other word in legal language or whatnot. And so here we're looking at whether we should be looking at families, defining families according to their function or their form. And so, for instance, in Fitzpatrick and Sterling Housing Association Limited in 1998, Lord Justice Ward, who was dissenting in this judgment, said that the question is more what a family does than what it is. A family unit is a social organisation which functions through linking its members closely together. The functions might be procreative, sexual, social, economic, emotional. The list is not exhaustive. Not all families function in the same way. And so here, Lord Justice Ward is really appreciating how what a family is different to each individual, and so for that reason maybe trying to come up with a definition is the wrong thing to do, and maybe we should instead, rather than looking at finding a general definition of family which applies to all cases concerning family law, but maybe we should be looking at the function of the family. What function does a particular family actually provide, and look at family from that way. Furthermore, in Re B, a child from 2017, it was said that family law is a matter of fact. Family law is a matter of fact, one of substance and not of form. And so here is essentially agreeing with Lord Justice Ward that you can't really look at the form of a family, because families take different forms, and depending on whose family it is, your culture, background and all of that. And so instead you need to look at the substance of the family, looking at the family as a whole and the actual substance as a way of defining whether it is a family and what a family actually is. So now that we've got a bit of an idea what a family is and how we can approach the question of what a family actually is, let's apply this to the law. What is family law? So family law is essentially the law which regulates families, and as such it looks at structure rather than form. So for instance, various adult legal relationships. The law doesn't define family, nor does it try and regulate families generally, but the law regulates families in specific ways. So, for instance, with the adult legal relationships, there's marriage, civil partnership, and cohabitation, and the law gives rights to the parties to those legal relationships, and that's one way to regulate families, and that's one part of family law. But also, law protects the concept of a family and gives families legal recognition. Families are important for many different reasons, and so by putting in place law, this provides a structure, for instance the adult legal relationships, and that gives the families and the couple the legal recognition to do things together. So, for instance, buy a house together, have a joint bank account, have children together, live as a family, be in each other's wills, for instance. And so the law really works on the foundations of family rather than tackling what a family is. From an overall perspective, it tackles the smallest structures of what builds up a family. So that is childbirth, procreation, adult legal relationships, divorce, children law, and all of that. For instance, assisted reproduction as well for the procreation side of it. And so, yeah, family law is broad, and it's very much looking at what is needed for a family to be built, essentially. And so, now that we have a bit of an idea of what family law is, next we need to ask ourselves, why do we have family law? And we have family law because it protects those who are most vulnerable in these relationships. And this is particularly the case in cases of domestic abuse, but also regulates the relationships between individuals and provides a form of state control, which can be useful in certain situations, but there can be disadvantages in other situations as well. It also provides remedies when things go wrong. If we didn't have family law and a couple didn't want to be in a relationship together, it might be that one of them is walking away completely empty-handed, and that's going to cause more trouble than it is good, especially if they are made homeless. And so the law can step in and provide some remedies for those when it goes wrong, which are fair for both parties. But also, it might even balance the unequal bargaining powers. So traditionally it's been suggested that men have unequal bargaining powers over women. However, it could be the other way around, or it might not be men and women, it might be rich versus poor, for instance. And so family law tries to step in to try and balance out those unequal bargaining powers, for instance by putting limits in place, particularly for adult legal relationships. And so we build our knowledge further by looking at the case of Huang and Secretary of State for the Home Department in 2007. And here it was said how human beings are social animals. They depend on others. Their family or extended family is the group on which many people most heavily depend socially, emotionally, and often financially. There comes a point at which, for some, prolonged and unavoidable separation from this group seriously inhibits their ability to live full and fulfilling lives. And so this is really bringing everything we've looked at today together and really showing how the idea of family, the concept of family, is really an essential component of human life. And individuals need family, need that support network family provides to live to their fullest potential and live their most fulfilling lives. And so we can also see that when our family is not providing a place where individuals can meet their full potential, the law again steps in. For instance, child protection hearings and all that, but we will look at child protection and children law more generally and how their rights relate to this much later on in this series as well. So that concludes this lecture. So now that we're at the end of the lecture, you should be able to describe the different descriptions of family. For instance, there is a nuclear family, there's the extended family, and so on. Explain the development of the family. So how have we got from the traditional nuclear family to the families we have today, and evaluate whether the law has done enough. Has the law done enough in defining families and in regulating them? And please do let me know in the comments what you think. But as I said, that essentially concludes our lecture today. And so if you have any questions or comments or anything at all, please leave them in the comments section below. I love it when I hear from you. It shows me that you are engaging, and I will always try and respond whenever I can. But also please like, and again comment. I say comment again because commenting is important. I love comments and I love questions. But also do like. By liking, you show me that you want this content and that there's a need for this content. And finally, if you haven't done already, please do subscribe, because it helps me and you. It helps me because it shows me that people are watching this and they're enjoying it, that there's a demand for this content, and it will help my content be discovered by more people as well in the future, which is just what I need. But it also helps you, because then you will get notified and will be able to keep updated with my content when I release more content like this, and also various other bits of content such as law school advice, which they don't tell you, and insider secrets to help you reach your fullest potential. So please do consider subscribing to gain those benefits. If you haven't already, please again do support me and my mission. You can read more about that in the description below. Even if it's just signing up with Easy Fundraising, that essentially helps me raise money for myself and for developing the Law with Charlie brand, and also being able to continue to provide free public legal and law student education for free for much longer, and make it even better next time. But also, by using the Easy Fundraising in particular, it doesn't cost you a thing. Essentially, you press on a button in your extensions when you do online shopping, and it doesn't cost you a thing, but the company, wherever you're buying whatever you're buying, will then donate to the course which you are following with the Easy Fundraiser. And finally, I've mentioned my premium content throughout this lecture. If you are wanting to aim for those higher grades, first class 2-1s, I cannot guarantee such high grades, but I can help develop your technique and knowledge to make it more likely that you can get those top grades by taking you through key techniques, giving you access to exclusive videos, and also just making sure that you can build your knowledge and have a much more extensive knowledge, which can really help you to succeed. So if you are interested in my premium content, please do let me know in the comments section, or I will be publishing the links to my various premium content and how you can get access to it very soon. But that's essentially it for now. And so again, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have found this video helpful. Please do comment, and remember, like and subscribe for more content like this. It shows me that you want this kind of content. And also, regardless of whether you're a law student who's using this lecture as revision, or whether you're someone who might be interested in pursuing law, a legal education, and you're wanting to get a sense of what a lecture is like, or what kind of content we may go through, then please also let your friends know about this content. But that is all from me for now, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Goodbye.